Welcome back to Local Edition. My name is Brad Pomerance. Thanks again for joining us. Our guest is Wendy Greuel. Wendy is the controller of the City of Los Angeles. She is also an announced candidate for the mayor of Los Angeles, and I want to talk to you about your job as controller. You conduct several audits to make sure that the city is running efficiently. You recently had an audit related to employee cell phones. Tell us about the audit.
Well, what we found is that no one was minding the store. In fact, when we asked one of the departments, how many cell phones do we have? There was no answer to that question. And so we did a survey of how many cell phones there are, in total 12,000. And we said we could do a much better, 12,000, including our proprietary departments. We could do a much better job. And number one, each of them had different kinds of contracts. So there was no benefit that you would have for having that many where you could get a good deal, and they weren't being improved upon. I don't know about you, but I know when I've gone over my limit and you've got to be able to get more data, and how does that work?
But
no one was
and that's the challenge, and that's the problem, is that if you just stay on top of it, of course you can get a few more minutes, and you pay maybe a dime or a nickel more, whatever it is, but when you don't try to do that, what happens? You get charged 10 bucks. 10 bucks times 12,000.
It's a lot of money. And I think the other point of it is, does everyone really need a cell phone? For example, I had a personal phone and a work cell phone. I said, I don't need both. I can have one with the kinds of benefits.
But can you, though? I mean, is there a problem with taking personal calls on a work phone or taking...
Well, that's why I only have a personal cell phone. I only have a personal cell phone.
But what if someone needs to reach you for work? You can take that call.
They call me on my my one cell phone that I have.
Right, I understand. So if it's your personal, you can decide what you want to do with your personal phone.
Right. So I always had two, because you can only do city work. So, but the question was, a lot of departments just said, you have that position, so therefore you get a cell phone, not do you really need one. In fact, we reduced the number of cell phones we have in our own department because people said, I don't use it that often.
Of course.
Why not just call me on my personal phone?
Well, what about having a central procurement agency for cell phones?
Well, that's one of the recommendations we have in our audit, is to identify how we get a better deal and who can be more in charge of that. We found, for example, in LAPD that they had, for emergency purposes, about 500 cell phones. Well, they were all hooked up. We were being charged for each of those per month, even though they weren't being used. There's a better way to do that, and having someone who can centralize and look at it is very important.
Do we have a central procurement division?
We do through our general services normally for a number of products, not in this instance, and that's why one of our audits. That's right. That's why my audits come up with some great ideas on how we can save money, millions of dollars.
Let's talk about your audits, because so often I think there's a perception that the controller does an audit, it gets put in a file cabinet. But some of them have not been put in file cabinets. I'm thinking about your September 2010 audit relating to red light cameras. You brought up some very significant concerns, and it looks like you put into motion the elimination of the red light camera program.
Well, what we said in our audit was the fact that the original contract idea was on false premises. What they said is we're gonna get all of our revenue back, because every time someone gets a red light camera ticket, it's going to go on your registration, and therefore people will pay that. Well, unless the courts did that, it wasn't happening. And there was an anticipation that we were going to get all the money. So it cost us more than we had. We didn't select the right intersections. So we had many recommendations on, if you're moving forward, here's what you need to change. But our audits are really supposed to be the catalyst for the discussion on where you go next. And I'm pushing on a scorecard and others that says, okay, here's the audits we did. Who's implemented what, who has not implemented the recommendations, and let's move forward on this.
So are you finding, I mean, the red light camera audit is one of the more high profile ones where you see action. Are you seeing action being taken? I mean, you've been in office, and I have 6, 7 audits that I know about. I can't imagine there must be more.
Well, we're seeing on some, but we are going to highlight those where they have not taken action, where the department or the mayor or council have not taken action. We're going to move forward to ensure we get that implementation.
Her name is Wendy Greuel. She is the controller for the City of Los Angeles. She is also running for mayor. That election's in 2013. My name is Brad Pomerance. Back to HLN.